All right, so we should start by introducing
Ourselves?
Let's pretend like we just met.
Okay.
Hi, I'm James Brown. I'm a meditation teacher.
Jon Paul Crimi. I'm a breathwork teacher.
Oh, really? I've really been interested in breathwork.
Cool.
That's cool. Maybe we can share some of that with people here.
Sure. Yeah.
Excellent.
Breathwork is amazing. It's changed my life. It's way better than meditation, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, ironically, I feel the same way about meditation versus breathwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would.
There's sort of a hierarchy that I see. But no, all joking aside, we're here at the Biohacking Conference in Beverly Hills, and we're doing this podcast to reach out to, I guess, what we call biohopers. Right? People who aren't at the conference, who don't live in one of these big metropolitan centers where people are aggregating all this biohacking equipment, but maybe want to tap into this idea that there's something bigger and more available and beyond what they might see as the constraints of their current life. And I think that they wanted us to talk about how meditation and breathwork,
Yes.
can help people expand their consciousness, expand their experience of life.
Yeah.
So
I think no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, no matter what stage you are in your life, meditation and breathwork can help. Right?
Yeah.
I think everybody wants change, no matter where they're at in their life.
Yeah.
We all want change. We all want to grow, right? Because that's the key to, I think the key to being happy or finding happiness is continuing to grow, continuing to evolve. So how are you going to do that, right? So meditation, breath work, those are two of the biggest tools.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when you say, I think everyone wants to grow. Like if you ask people, do you want to shrink or grow?
Right.
Like people want to grow.
Right.
You know, we want to be the kind of person that grows on someone, not the kind of person that shrinks on someone.
Right.
But I think the experience that a lot of people have in their life is shrinking or it's stagnancy.
Right.
And so I think what we have is this fundamental disconnect between this universally expressed idea that I want growth, I want expansion, and the obstacles that stand in the way of that.
Yeah.
And I think that might be a good way to get into, like, well, what can meditation do to remove those obstacles?
Right.
You know, and because I think that what we have is this fundamental experience of software versus hardware. Right? We have software, we have all these ideas about how we want to be in the world, and then we have hardware that's all junked up and open browser windows, and we need to defrag the hard drive and
Totally.
those kinds of things. So why don't we start with like what do you think is the obstacle to an expanded experience of self or life that you encounter most in the work you do with breathwork?
I think the self, like my own self, like I'm my own biggest obstacle. My voice, that critic that I think almost everyone suffers from, that critic, like the biggest lie that we all tell ourselves is that we're not enough in some way. I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not funny enough. I'm not skinny enough. I'm not hairy enough.
Yeah.
I am not enough, right?
I'm too old. I'm too young.
All those
good luck with
lies that
one.
we tell ourselves. And I think that that's what prevents us from going after what we really want in our life, from doing what we really want in our life. And for me, what breathwork did was it cleared out all my shit, all my trauma, all my stuff, and it turned off that lie that I'm not enough. And it turned off that critic in my head that tells me, oh my God, how are you going to start an online business? You can't even use Facebook properly. You know, you're an idiot. Like we all have. Nobody liked your picture of your salad on Instagram today. Oh my God. Right. So it turned off that critic, and then I just got to work on the things that I wanted to do in my life. And it totally changed everything. It also made me realize that so much of the shit isn't really important that I get worked up about. And that all that really matters is gratitude and love. And that I'm present and I'm giving gratitude for what I have, and I'm loving the people that are around me, right? That's all that really matters. Everything else is just, you know, shit that I get caught up over for no reason.
And I think you're not the only one. I mean, I'm not the only one. Everyone. So, okay, so now I think we have an illustration of the software hardware thing I'm talking about.
Right.
What you just laid out is a beautiful piece of software. Or let's put it this way, it's a beautiful sort of spoken word piece, and if we had someone transcribe it with a really beautiful handwriting on some pretty paper and then fold it with a flower and gave it to someone, be like, oh, that's so nice. But that's not the experience of that truth you speak of. So how does breath work, like in a really specific way, how does breath work then become the experience of that truth, not the utterance of that truth?
Okay. So I think that I'm a little confused about the question.
Well, like, so what is the work you do so that people can live that truth that you just expressed?
Got it. Okay, good. So yeah, it's funny that you're using this analogy of software and hardware, because
Yeah.
I really feel like when I lay down to breathe, it resets the hard drive.
Yeah.
It doesn't just close out a few of the apps that are open, a few of
it's
the
like
tabs.
a hard reboot.
It's a hard reboot. It like wipes it clean, you know? And here's the thing, like I'm from Boston originally, South Shore of Boston. It's like where we don't do, Mercury in retrograde, your life's a mess, get your shit together,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So here's the thing, like if it didn't work, I wouldn't do it. It's not some weird woo-woo, new agey thing that's like, I don't know, maybe I feel a little better. Like it's friggin' undeniable. You lay down and you breathe in this certain way, you're gonna feel completely different when you come up than when you lay down. So what it does is it resets the entire hard drive. It clears all this shit out, and you're actually doing something. You're breathing in a way. Now this is where we get a little scientific, where you're breathing into your sympathetic nervous system, right? You're breathing in through your mouth. And when you do that, I believe, this is just my personal theory, that we all have traumas, we all have things that have happened to us in our life. And some of it isn't even our stuff. Some of it's passed on through generations. There is scientific proof now that stuff is passed down through the DNA. They've studied this in mice and different things like that, where they have shocked the mice, and then they spray cherry blossom spray, and then they shock it, and then they spray the cherry blossom spray, and then they shock it again.
Yeah.
And then they just spray the spray, and then it has an experience,
And
right?
Peter are the people doing this work, right?
Right. And then the mouse has babies, and then they spray the cherry blossom spray, and then it has the experience of the trauma.
it's
And
amazing.
then that mouse has babies, and they have the trauma. And so it's passed down through the DNA. So, mothers that were pregnant at 9/11, the cortisol levels of the babies were higher.
No, totally. Yeah.
So maybe it's not even your stuff. So we can actually blame our parents, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're our grandparents, and
So this thing, it clears out that stuff. And I believe that a lot of that stuff that happens to us gets stuck in our sympathetic nervous system. That's fight or flight, right? Somebody says something horrible, something
triggers
happens,
you.
and you go, now we're in our sympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
We're in fight or flight. So when you lay down and you breathe in this way, you're breathing into your mouth, you're breathing into your sympathetic nervous system. And I believe because you're doing it in a safe environment, it clears out those traumas.
Yeah.
The most common thing I hear after my class is like, holy shit, that was like 20 years of therapy without having to say a word.
That's fantastic. And I think so there's a physiological truth there, because I think what you're talking about is you're breathing into the sympathetic nervous system, you're triggering those things. And then what you're allowing for is a safe experience where then they can be released.
Correct.
Right? And so I think that that's something, if we can turn the lens up to meditation for a minute, because I think they work in different ways, but to the same end.
Yes.
There's this Buddhist concept called samskara.
Yes.
Samskara. And it's where we get the English word scar. It's where that word comes from. And it referred to what they called, whenever there was a traumatic experience, that an indelible impression was formed in what they called the stuff of the mind.
Yep.
Meaning it was a groove that was laid into consciousness. And you don't have to be a Buddhist or anyone to understand this truth. It's what scientists who study PTSD understand.
Yeah.
Right? It's the same mechanism. We just understand it scientifically. You can have this understanding of, we call it emotional baggage.
Yeah.
Right? That's the most colloquial way we understand this scarring impact that negative experiences have on the us that shows up in the present. And so we all have these scars. We all have these traumas. We all have these internalized experiences. And what happens is when they get triggered, like you said, we go into fight or flight.
Yeah. And it doesn't even have to be that big. It can be you driving down the road and you hear a certain song and it reminds you of an ex who screwed you over.
Yeah.
Or you see a certain car and you're like, oh my God, that's my...
Yeah, and you act in an irrelevant way.
Yes.
Right? In fact, what they understood from Buddhist times to now is that if you're triggered, it creates an irrelevant way of reacting in the world.
Totally.
You shoot someone, and like a great example is, I was teaching a meditation course and I was talking about this and how meditation helps release these stresses. And this woman sheepishly said, oh my God, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was on a date a week ago with a guy who looked like his profile picture, so that's a good place to start. And it seemed like there was some chemistry there. And then when it came time to order, he ordered, they were at some old-timey restaurant, and he ordered lobster thermidor. And she freaked, can we swear? The fuck out, right?
Why?
Because, well, I'll tell you why. I'll get to that. That's the punchline. So she got up and went to the bathroom. sweating, and then she came back on her phone. You know how we make those fake calls? Oh no, honey. Oh no, totally. I'm totally there for you. No, don't worry. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It's okay. And then said all this close enough for the guy to hear, and then fake hung up her fake call and said, I'm so sorry. I have to go. A friend's in need. I really, can we reschedule? And she left. The reason she left, the reason she freaked out is lobster thermidor was her ex-husband's favorite dish.
Yeah.
And when he said it, it triggered all of that in her.
Right.
Like it was a bad breakup, a bad divorce. It triggered all that in her. And, you know, and this is not a person who thinks they suffer from PTSD. This is not a person who thinks they're scarred. But what's interesting about triggering is I think that we actually want ourselves to be triggered. When they put up trigger warnings, I'm like, no, you want to be triggered because being triggered shows you what you have to work through.
100%. I cannot tell you how many times people have come up to me after breathwork and be like, oh, this brought up this memory and you know, I didn't ever want to think about that. I'm like, well, that's there inside of you. And the reason it came up is because it needs to go. You need to clear that out.
Yeah.
What do you can't like drive around and avoid a Prius in Los Angeles.
Exactly.
If your ex-girlfriend drove a Prius, what are you going to never see a Prius?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, for me, the way it manifested was, I joke, I say I was like one of the top 5 angriest guys in Los Angeles, which is pretty hard to be. And now I'm like a slightly annoyed guy.
I wonder who number 4 was.
I'm like a slightly annoyed guy in Bend, Oregon, right? So, but the way that manifested is I would be in line at Starbucks, and the line at any Starbucks in Los Angeles is 25 minutes long, right? So you're waiting in line, and then the guy up there gets to the counter, and he doesn't know what he wants. And I'm like, you don't know what you want? It's the fucking same menu all over the world at Starbucks everywhere. We've been standing in line for 25 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
You order, I mean, what do you need? And I'm like yelling at the guy at the counter. And it's not about the guy.
No.
You know, it has nothing to do with him. It has everything to do with what's going on inside of me.
Yeah, exactly.
And this guy slighted me. You know, this guy offended me. If we're gonna go around in life being offended and angry, it's like what's the Ram Dass quote? It's like, how are you ever gonna be polished if you get, you know, if you're irritated by every rub?
Yeah, exactly.
And that was me. Like every single thing bothered me.
Yeah.
Everything. And when I found this practice, I was able, and I couldn't meditate. I tried to meditate for years. I tried every type of meditation I think out there, and it just didn't work for me until I did breath work. And now I can sit because I had so much irritation, so many samskaras inside of me that just sitting, I was like, oh, my back hurts. Oh my God, the teacher, this, that, the dialogue was so brutal. And I know it's not, you know, you can describe this better. The purpose isn't to shut off the mind, right? I know this now, but I had so much going on that I couldn't sit still.
Yeah, and you had a framing of meditation that meant the minute you started, you were sucking at it, and then who wants to do that?
Yeah.
Because you already suck at enough things in your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good. I mean, I was fortunate enough to take your class yesterday, and it was amazing. Yeah, because you presented in such a real way.
Yeah.
Because so many people have ideas about what they think meditation is, and that they think there's just one way of meditating, right? Yeah. And that like a lot of that stuff comes from texts that are ancient that aren't like, they just don't apply to us nowadays. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah. Well, so this is, you know, I teach meditation, which surprises almost everyone who I've known for most of my life, because I'm the least likely person to be a meditation teacher. In fact, the thing that got me into meditation in my early 30s, so I'm 58 now, so a long time ago, I reread the book Siddhartha, which is a great book. It's Hermann Hesse's story of basically Buddha as a teenager.
Okay.
And I put the book down and I thought, this is a great book. And then literally the next thought I had was, I bet that more interesting women would be more interested in me if I meditated.
That's a good motivation.
It's a great motivation to meet and, you know, engage with interesting women.
Pretty much almost everything I've done except breath work has been motivated by women.
So I thought that I could, like, you know, have some Buddha books on the shelf and a little Buddha sculpture, you know, and it could be like just on a date, be like, I'm going to a Zen retreat this weekend if you know, into that sort of thing. And so I leapt into Buddhism because I thought Buddha invented meditation. I literally thought there was a guy named Buddha, and I didn't know if it was like a first name or a nickname or like last name or something.
Yeah.
And even having never meditated, I knew what meditation was. You sat really still in some vaguely uncomfortable position. Maybe there was something you did with your hands, and you tried to clear your mind.
Yeah.
And so I leapt into that practice, and I tried all kinds of different practices, different degrees of austerity, and I walked away from that experience pretty much convinced that my mind was too crazy, that I couldn't do it.
Yep.
And what changed the game for me was discovering years later, after we had our first kid, we adopted our first kid, and life got turned totally upside down. You're a dad, right?
Yeah.
So you know how a kid can just completely transform your life.
100%.
And, my job sucked. My relationship with my wife sucked. I was kind of sucking at being a dad after having wanted to be one for a long time. And in that swirl of chaos, I discovered that there was a way of meditating that was completely out of alignment with all those sort of ideas I had. Right? That it was a way of meditating that was meant for people called householders, meaning not monks. Like householder is a kind of old term.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if anyone out there listening has a landlord. I'm sure many of you do, but I'm sure most people have never thought of what an ancient term that is. Like they're the lord of your land.
Right.
Like you're a serf. Like they're the landed gentry. You pay them tribute on a monthly basis.
It feels like that when you're paying rent, but
So a householder is an equally old term, but it means one whose dharma, whose path through life is to hold house, meaning to have relationships and jobs and a multi-branching career path and wonder what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I think the great disservice that has been done culturally is that most of what we think of as meditation comes to us from what I would call a monastic lineage.
Yep.
Meaning it's stuff that's practiced by and was developed in and for monks.
Yep.
Right? The Dalai, and there's nothing wrong with that kind of practice. I mean, I've been on a 7-day silence retreat. I've done those practices after I've learned this and more effectively, and I think there's a lot of beauty and truth. But the inescapable fact remains that I think the Dalai Lama is an amazing guy, but I don't think he could raise my 2 boys and keep my wife happy.
It's funny because I have a joke that if the Dalai Lama had to drive on the 405 freeway in Los Angeles all the time, he'd eventually punch somebody in the face.
Exactly.
I don't care. I know he would.
My friend Light Watkins, another meditation teacher here in Los Angeles, he and I were joking because we have all these people who think they want to really kill it with meditation, so they're going to go on a 7-day silence retreat.
Yeah.
And I'm like, go for it. But we were joking that we should create noise retreats for monks.
Yeah.
We should bring monks into the city and give them a shitty commute and a sketchy roommate and a crappy retail job. And a crappy retail job and say, all right, let's see how your Zen holds up after 7 days of this.
No kidding.
Right? And so I think that what limits a lot of people is the kind of negative internal dialogue that you talked about.
Yeah.
Right? Being trapped in your mind, these scars, these emotional triggers that inhibit us from taking chances or putting ourselves out there or create all these irrelevant responses when we're on dates or things.
Yeah.
And I think that what's really essential is for people to understand that there are techniques that you can use that you can do quite easily, actually. Like I tell people, meditation can be hard, but it does not have to be hard. It can actually be really easy. It depends on how you approach it. So if you can find an easy way to meditate, if you can find a way to breathe that you can do sort of on your own. You can take a course from someone who's an expert like you, and then, everyone has a floor. Yeah. Everyone has a bed. You can lay down and do the work yourself.
Well, that's why it worked for me.
Yeah.
Because I was a trainer at the time when I discovered it, a personal trainer. And I was like, okay, I can't meditate, but I can lay on the floor and breathe in this way for 20 minutes or 25 minutes or whatever. I looked at it like a workout.
Yeah.
That was literally how I was looking at it. I was like, I'm just going to breathe in this technique. But all this crazy stuff happened to me.
Yeah.
So it was really accessible. And I thought, the classes I went to do it were really woo-woo and new agey. And I was like, oh my God, what is this fresh hell that I have walked into? But I powered through it because the experience was so powerful. It was undeniable, right?
Yeah.
And so at some point in my own breathwork practice, I realized if somebody taught this in a way that was like for regular people or angry guys like me, it would be fucking huge. And, that's been my experience now. Like my classes are, up to 200 people in these classes. And I got guys coming up to me like, I thought, dude, this was total nonsense. My wife dragged me here. And I thought.
I like how you slip into the Boston accent when you,
My wife dragged me to your thing and I was looking at you with your bald head up on the stage, looking like you got fired from the Blue Man Group. And, and I just, you know what? I laid there. And it was incredible. Can I give you a hug? Because it was the most profound experience. And they start fucking crying on me, like literally holding me, crying on me. And I'm just like, wow. And I get like 200 hugs after this thing that I do, right?
That's fantastic.
And then when you hug someone, something happens in the body that's magical. And I'm filled up. And so I get to be the best version of me when I'm teaching. I get to tap into this thing.
I totally
and
can
it's
agree
like,
with that.
and it's not like I'm not an asshole anymore. I'm still an asshole. I'm just much less of an asshole than I was.
Yeah. It's all relative.
Yeah.
Right? It's all scale.
It is. I just scale it back quite a bit.
Yeah.
And the more I'm doing the work, the more I'm breathing, the more I'm teaching, the better person I am.
Yeah.
The better my life is, the better the planet is. Like,
Yeah.
I used to hear people say shit like, "Oh, I'm doing something that's changing the planet," and I was like, "That's not fucking changing the planet. Let's be real. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
you're not affecting the core, the mantle,
I thought
the
that's
continental
total
drift.
bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, it's total bullshit. And I always thought when people said that, it was like, oh God.
Yeah.
But now I actually feel like if I teach these people this thing, and then they come out and they do that, and then they show somebody else that,
Yeah.
it really is changing the planet.
Yeah.
It really is, because I've watched it transform people's lives right in front of my eyes. It's transformed my life. I've watched it transform thousands of other people's lives. And if that keeps going, then that does make a difference. That does do a ripple effect, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it's all.
But I'm still not
going
to say I'm changing the fucking planet.
No.
Like, it's just, I can't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't go there.
Yeah, I'm not that big a rock. You know, it's funny you talk about, because, you know, I've taken your class, and I also like the way you present it, and I've had people say the same thing. And what's interesting is coming into this space, because, I mean, for most of my life, I was basically a militant asshole atheist. Right? and now I'm a meditation teacher, which is the most amazing transformation. But still, I find that there's this almost like namaste sort of halo vibe around
Oh my
everything.
God. It's the spiritual starter kit with the beads
and I
the
see
shirt,
people trying to put
the
on that
white flowy
garment,
shirt, yeah.
and I'm just like, I never put that on.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a lot of beads, and I don't have, and as a result,
Oh, you
I'm
mean
not
you don't have a
everyone's-
picture of yourself in a white flowy shirt
No,
in a meditation pose on
no.
your Instagram?
No, I
Like,
don't.
Then you are not a meditation
yeah,
teacher. If
exactly.
you don't have that picture
No,
on your Instagram.
clearly not. I'm a
I ca-
pretender.
Yeah.
But
you
I
have
think
to
that
have the
I
spiritual
think
starter
that
kit.
what we really need to find is the truth is, like, look, for some people that's absolutely the teacher. I think what you and I have discovered is that we're not everyone's teacher, but we're definitely someone's teacher.
Yes, for sure.
And so what I want to do now is shift to, maybe let's talk about a little technique, because what I want to, this is all sounding great. I think what we want to do is share with people some things that they can do.
Okay.
Right? Something. And so for me, I mean, I'll start. I think the biggest issue that people have, like, I teach a practice called flow meditation. And what I teach people is that the thing that prevents us from being in flow, and flow being defined as one of those experiences where you're completely present.
Yeah.
Where you're performing at the top of your game, you're enjoying yourself fully, and the kicker is that you're not trying to have that experience. Like, you can't try to be in flow.
Right.
Right? An athlete can't try to be in the zone. You can't try to come up with a great idea. You can't try to have a great conversation.
Yeah. You either do or you don't.
It just is, yeah?
Yeah.
And flow is a state of being. And I think the two biggest obstacles that people face is that we have a culture that's predicated on doing, and doing, and two things at the same time, and three things at the same time if possible, and productivity apps, and we have to-do lists as long as our arm, and we feel like it's our job on the planet to get everything done. And I'm like, you're never going to get everything done. They'll just give you more.
Yep.
Right? Your job is to be present while doing, and everyone can nod their heads, and that's the software. But the thing that junks up the hardware is that obsession with doing literally wires your brain to be always on, always thinking what's next, always rehashing the past, looking for patterns, always anywhere but present.
Yeah, and if you've got this list that you can't finish, you're always going to feel like you're not enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not enough. I'm
not
not
enough.
doing
Yeah,
enough. I'm not
exactly.
doing enough. I got to do more.
You got to do more. Got to do it right. Got to do it perfect.
Yeah. And then you're always failing.
Yeah.
You're always failing. You're never going to feel satisfied with who you are and what your life is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to feel like I'm not failing. I'm succeeding.
Yeah.
Right? Like
I can't meditate. I can't be a good meditator. If I can't kill it, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, listen, every one of my classes, I screw up. Every class.
Yeah, you told me you forgot all these things like
Yeah,
today.
every class. Nobody knows.
No, nobody knows. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they're not in your head.
We're all screwing up. That's the thing. Every one of us is screwing up every day. We're making mistakes every day.
Yeah.
So why are we beating the shit out of ourselves around
Exactly.
it, right? It's like if you love somebody, like I love my kids in a way that I never knew was possible for me. And so if my kid was treating myself the way I'm treating myself, it would break my heart.
Yeah.
So why am I doing it to myself?
Yeah. Because no one can hear you.
Yeah.
Because no one can hear you but you. But so let's get back, because I want to. You touched on something I want to get to a little bit later. But so the biggest thing is doing.
Okay.
So what I would recommend is that if you're going to try meditation on your own, the number one rule is don't try too hard. Try to do as little as possible. If you want to reconnect with that experience of being, what you want to do is not do so much. So if you're out there and you want to try to meditate in the simplest way possible, just find a comfortable place to sit. Don't think you have to hold any particular position. Sit comfortably. If you're uncomfortable, move. Close your eyes. and just allow your mind to flow. Let go of the idea that you're here to have fewer thoughts or nicer thoughts, and just allow the mind to settle. And whenever you hear that judge, that egoic judge that you talked about, that I call that voice the witness for the prosecution, because it's always out to put you behind bars.
Yes,
right?
That's great.
When you hear that voice come in saying you're not doing it right, you're doing stupid, that's just you judging the flow of your own consciousness. And so the way to get out of that judgment is to think of the flow of your own consciousness like an actual stream. Right? We've all sat alongside a stream at some point, and unless you're my friend Barry, you have probably never judged the passage of the stream, right? I was hiking with my friend Barry, who's a total control freak, just a anal retentive, just a very unpleasant person, but there's some things I really like about him.
I'm going to send him this podcast.
And we were looking at the stream, and he goes, I don't know if it just shouldn't go left around that rock. Like, I think it would be better if it would go right. I mean, it's just, he also thought the forest was messy. Right? And so, no one judges a stream, but when we sit to meditate, we judge the stream all the time. And so my only advice to someone who just wants to try it is just see if you can sit for 5 minutes and just allow the entire experience to unfold. And if you can do that for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you have tapped into a really powerful truth, is that your mind, if you leave it alone, has the capacity to settle into what I might think of as a meditative state more easily than if you would try to make it so. So that's at the root of what I teach, is to take a flow approach to meditation. And so if you guys want to try it, if you want to reach out to us and let us know how it went, I'm sure if you want to go deeper, we can, at the end of this, tell people about courses we offer and things. But
Sure.
So if you were going to give some instruction to people just out there listening, what would you tell them? Something that they could just do very simply.
Sure. So the style of, first I feel like I got to clarify a couple things. The thing I teach is called breathwork, right? But breathwork is an umbrella term. It's like saying fitness.
It's like meditation.
What do? I do fitness.
Yeah,
you know what I
exactly,
mean?
yeah.
Like, well, what does that mean? You could do CrossFit, you could do HIIT training, you could do a million different types of fitness. So the style that I teach is conscious connected breathing, circular breathing, meaning you breathe through your mouth down into your belly, take 2 breaths in and then let it out and then start again. You don't rest in between breaths, right? And some people call it rebirthing, and there's some other names for it, but that's the style I teach. It's not Kundalini yoga.
Say that name again.
Rebirthing.
No. Conscious
connected breathing.
Conscious connected breathing.
Conscious connected breathing or circular breathing,
Yeah.
right? So some people, I'll say breathwork, and they're like, oh, I've been doing breathwork forever. And it turns out they've been doing Kundalini yoga, which is amazing, but a very different thing, right? Or they do Wim Hof's method, which is like, holding and different things, like, which is amazing, but very different than what I teach, right? So I just need to be clear on that. So when you lay down and you breathe in this specific way, the most common thing I hear after my classes is like, oh my God, that was 20 years of therapy, right? So that's just one technique. There's a bunch of different techniques out there. And the thing is that most of us are not even breathing properly. When I say properly, is like the right way to breathe is in through your nose, down
into the belly.
Into the belly.
Yeah, because most people are stressed, so you breathe into the chest.
They're breathing really shallow.
And
they're
fast.
holding their breath and they're breathing shallow. I was a personal trainer who hadn't breathed into my abs because I had to keep my abs tight, right?
Because you got to represent.
I got to be shredded all the time. And even though I have a shirt over them and
never
nobody
been
can see
shredded,
them, right? So I worked in Gold's Gym in Venice, right? The mecca of narcissism.
Yeah.
And so I hadn't taken a breath into my belly in 30 years.
Yeah.
And I see people in my class who can't breathe into their belly, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And so once I started breathing, just breathing into your belly will change your life, right? So this technique, which is different from the style that I teach, you breathe in through your nose, down into your belly. This is one thing that I like. You breathe in through your nose, down into your belly, and then you breathe out twice as long. And you can breathe out through your nose or through your mouth, and that calms the nervous system, right?
Yeah.
So inhale through your nose, into the belly, and then let it out twice as long.
Let's do that. Let's do a few cycles of that with people so they can see.
So 3 breaths of that.
Yeah.
So I'm in recovery. I've been in recovery for 19 years. And there's a expression in recovery saying pause when agitated, right? Meaning somebody sends you an email, somebody says something, you pause, right? So I used to pause when agitated and then still say the thing or still send the email, right? So what I do now is I pause and then I take 3 of these breaths. So you say something mean or something stupid or whatever, I pause and then I go, fuck you, James. Fuck you, James. And then take another breath in. I'm not going to say it so I don't have to apologize later.
So that picture of dog crap you sent me the other day, you hadn't been doing that breathing thing.
Listen, I am not enlightened by any means. I still sometimes will say it and have to apologize and and make amends, whatever. I'm not enlightened. I mean, that's the thing I think people get from me in my classes is like, oh, this guy, if this guy can do it.
Yeah, I can do it. Yeah. That's what people tell me, like, dude, if you can meditate, I can meditate.
And that's what I want. I want to be for the everyday person. You know, I have like firefighters and police people coming to my class. It's amazing. Those are the people I want to help. I don't want to be sitting in a room with 8 other people in flowy shirts and beads being like, oh, we're so spiritual. Like, no, I want to help people who need this work. Who need assholes like
people
me.
People who are too busy. People
People, anyone, like, you know, a stressed out mom, you know, whatever. So that's just one technique that you can use to take a couple breaths. I mean, we have that saying, take a deep breath, but nobody does it.
The way most people do it, because I teach a very similar technique on my meditation course as a way to ease your way into breathing, but outside of meditation, I call it the OMFG technique.
Yeah.
Because it's for those moments when you're like, I'm going to say something, throw something, buy something, hit something that I'm going to have to regret. Right? And it's going to take me down a few notches, like in terms of my social standing. Like, dude,
and then you beat yourself up.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a fucking meditation teacher. Oh my God, I can't believe I just ripped the door off that.
Yeah, and so that technique you describe, which I don't know if I call it double or triple exhale breath, although triple X breath has a different connotation. It works in a really interesting way because every inhale you take. Yeah, it's a good search term. Every inhale you take activates circuits in your nervous system that take you into action.
Yep.
Every exhale triggers systems that take you into relaxation.
Yep.
So when you do this technique, breathing in short, and then you're literally spending twice as much time with the system that calms you down.
Yeah.
Because what's interesting about that is we've all had people, look, we're both married, right? Yeah. So I would hazard to say someone at some point in your life has been really pissed at you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, she gets pissed at me for stuff I did in her dream. Yeah, like exactly. I mean, I can't control that.
Yeah, and there's a quote on the back of my business card. It's from my wife, and it says, "I still get mad at how my husband sometimes ... and the ... is he can still be an asshole." And I didn't want to put that on the card. It says, "I still get mad at my husband sometimes ... but since I learned to meditate, I just don't stay mad."
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's real world benefits, right?
I want to make shirts that say, I'm sorry for what I said before breath work.
Exactly.
Because I can't tell you how many times I've had a fight with my wife, and then I go and I lay down and I breathe, and then I come back in and I'm like, I'm sorry, because it doesn't fucking matter. Whatever I was defending my ground on, it doesn't matter once I'm done with breath work.
No, totally.
And it's like...
And the reason for that, back to this time, is that you've expanded yourself beyond that point of irritation.
Yes.
Right? You've sort of expanded yourself beyond that trigger. You've moved through that, and so you can then embrace a bigger, freer world.
Yeah.
But
what do I want to do? Do I want to be happy or do I want to be right?
Exactly.
Do I want to hold my ground in this argument, or do I want to live in a state of gratitude and love?
Where I'm arguing with people on the internet.
It's a choice, right? It's a choice. But here's the internet. Don't even get me started about the keyboard, the keyboard warriors. I mean, I have people that you could be Mother Teresa on this earth, and they would still tell you you're doing it wrong. Yeah. You're an asshole. You're making mistakes.
You're making those poor people feel demeaned.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like, no matter, I'm just trying to help people, and I get more emails from people who are grateful and have incredible experiences than but every once in a while I get an email from somebody, and I'm like, you know what? I just realized like that's their experience. They're looking at me through their lens, right?
And it whenever someone's annoyed at you or pissed at you, it generally says a lot more about them than you.
100%.
Right? And so back to that software hardware thing, because I think in this breathwork technique we're talking about, we have the same thing. If someone's really, really angry at you, and I asked this question in class, I'm like, has everyone ever been angry at you? And everyone nods. And I say, have you ever told that person to calm down? Everyone laughs. Because it's the stupidest idea in the world.
Yeah.
And I ask, have you ever wondered why it's a bad idea to tell someone who's really pissed to calm down? Is it because they don't understand you? Nope. Fairly simple software instruction. 2 words, 2 syllables, calm down. Is it because they don't know at some level that they should? Nope, they know that.
Yeah.
It's because when someone is really pissed at you, their nervous system is flush with anger chemistry. Mm-hmm. Right? Their body is flush with, and they have to change that chemistry to change that behavior. And so the breathing technique, like before when I used to be pissed and I would go take a walk, I would basically walk around the broth doing and I'd come back and go, I've just thought of 3 more things you're wrong about. Right? When I started to learn this technique that you described, that we both teach, I've now discovered, is that it allows your nervous system to calm down itself.
Yeah. Well,
right?
you brought up such a great point. You have a breathing pattern for when you're angry.
Yeah.
You have a breathing pattern for when you're depressed. You have a breathing pattern for when you've got anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? And so we breathe when you're angry or whatever, or
Yeah.
you're holding your breath. I'm so pissed, right?
Yeah.
And if you can shift your breathing pattern,
Yeah.
you can shift out of that emotional state.
Yeah.
So it's like if you want to change your emotional state, change your breath.
Yeah.
And I say it all the time, change your breath, change your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you have to be willing to make that choice.
Yeah.
You
And-
know,
and I
because a
think-
lot of people want to stay stuck. They want to stay angry. They're getting a hit out of that
Well,
anger.
you can get addicted to anything.
Yeah.
Right?
And
And you can
yeah.
get addicted to drama. You can get
Yeah.
addicted to that chemistry.
I've been addicted to everything. Everything. I'm addicted to this conversation right now.
It's beautiful.
It's great. It's
Yeah,
great.
I'm going to shave my head. You're going to go get implants. So let's bring it back to meditation for a minute, because I think that, we live in a world, thankfully, where we've embraced physical fitness. I'm an old person. When I was in high school and I would go jogging, people would stop and offer me a ride. They'd be like, dude, get in. Look like you're in a hurry. I'm like, no, I'm running for exercise.
Right.
They're like, fitness nut. They would speed off.
Yeah.
Right. So we've embraced physical fitness. We've embraced nutrition. We've embraced all these things. And I think the inescapable fact is that you can be shredded and be an asshole.
I'm living proof
Yeah.
of that.
You can be eating the sort of tastiest, most nutritious macrobiotic food and be a snob and a jerk. You can be
Totally.
have 3 or 4 PhDs, and so I think that when we come back to you use the word self, that if talking to people out there, if you want the easiest, maybe most complete path to expanding your experience of life, it starts in consciousness, because consciousness is the lens through which you experience all of life.
Yeah.
Right. And when I talk about this lens of consciousness, the truth is that the lens can get constricted and it can get really dirty. Mm-hmm. When you're angry, you have this angry little ball of consciousness. It's all clouded over with anger feelings. If you can find a way to improve that relationship you have with your own mind, right, then I think that's how we expand, how we clear. And so for most people, what I found is the thing that prevents them from doing something like meditation is they start out with a very hostile experience of their own mind.
Yeah.
Right, because they're beating themselves up all the time and they're beating up the world. And then I think that if their meditation practice is thinking that they have to have a better experience of the mind,
Yeah.
then they're screwed.
Yeah.
Because they're already their worst enemy.
Yep.
They're going to do something that they've never done before
Yeah.
that is going to be hard for them.
Yeah,
and
just
then they're
another
gonna
thing I'm
fail.
terrible at.
Exactly.
Ugh.
And so what I've found is if people can just relax into the experience and allow it to be,
Mm-hmm.
then they can get a little foothold into a very powerful discovery, which is that you are something beyond your thoughts. Like in your workshops, you'd say this beautiful thing about you're not the body.
Yeah.
Like you have a body, but you're not the body. Like
Well-
you have a Honda, but you're not your Honda.
Well, so this brings up for me, like, I tried everything from the outside in.
Yeah.
Right? I tried to be in the best shape in the world, right? I tried to, the right car, the right relationship, the right thing. I was trying to fix myself.
Like my friend Barry.
Yeah. I don't give a shit about the stream though, but everything from the outside in, right? And I say this in my classes all the time. It's like, if you want to transform what you see on the outside of your life, you have to transform what you feel on the inside of yourself.
Yeah.
Right? So happiness is an emotion that we chase, right? It's like a cloud in the sky. It's going to come, it's going to go. Emotions come and go. But fulfillment, like that's been the key for me, is finding fulfillment, right? If you want to
Finding wholeness.
Yeah. If you want to transform your life, it's about finding something that fills you up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be happy every day. I'm not happy all the time. I wasn't happy this morning when I woke up. I was like, I couldn't sleep last night. I had insomnia. I was really excited about the class this morning. But by the end of the class, I was filled up.
Yeah.
I had 50 or 75 hugs. I don't even know. And people said these amazing things. And I was filled.
Yeah.
I was filled in this profound way. And so, I chased everything outside of myself, trying to fix myself, and none of it worked.
Yeah.
And when I worked on my inside, from the inside out, everything transformed.
Yeah. Well,
everything, every relationship, every friendship, every work, everything transformed in my life.
Yeah. No, and I think you speak of a whole, and maybe this is just different because my dad was an alcoholic. I used to go to AA meetings with him. It allowed me to see a side of him that I never saw growing up, right? He was compassionate, he was funny, he was like, because growing up he was an alcoholic, he was just detached. But all addicts are trying to fill a hole.
Yeah.
And the problem is that the hole is unfillable.
Yeah.
There can't be enough Pokemon cards. My 7-year-old is addicted to those. There can't be enough drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, productivity. You can't start enough companies. You can't have enough beach houses.
Doesn't stop you from trying.
Yeah, and I think the only thing that can fill the hole, and maybe this is the way I frame it, is you have to have an experience of wholeness that shows you there is no hole there.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's the first time I did breath work, that's what I experienced.
And so whether it's breath work or meditation or a combination of those things, I think they work great together, is that if you can have an experience within yourself, within consciousness, within your self-experience of a place of wholeness that is underneath your thoughts, underneath your worry, underneath your triggers, underneath your fear, that's the place from which you can begin to heal, right? And like I said, you're not a human doing, you're a human being. If you can open to that truth through experience, then you can discover that actually there's nothing wrong in the world.
Yeah.
Right? There's just obstacles put in our way, and like water, we flow around them and we adapt and we, make the most of the situation. And that which challenges us makes us stronger. We talk about growing pains, but I think it has to come from that place, and whatever way people can reach it, whether it's prayer, whether it's being out in nature, whether it's breath work, whether it's meditation. I think that the more we can cultivate those experiences and have them on a daily basis, we can come from that place of wholeness. And I think that's, like you said, because you can't go top down.
No.
But that's what society tells us. That's what everyone tries.
I think the key to starting those experiences, too, is to giving yourself permission to suck at it. Yeah. Give yourself permission to suck at meditation. Give yourself permission to suck at breathwork. I'm not going to be good at this. I'm not. What are you good at that you start the first time? Like nothing. So like I always tell people, like, don't worry about if you're doing the technique right or not.
Yeah.
Like just do it. Yeah. Just lay down and breathe.
Exactly.
And give yourself permission to be terrible at it.
Yeah.
And then start from there.
It's like the first kiss you have in your life sucked, but you have to get through it.
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. I think I was pretty good. I don't know. We'll have to send her an email.
We to the point now where I think we want to get to some questions that we want to ask some people. So I'm going to ask you this question. No, you ask me first.
Okay, good. Who is the first person that comes to mind when you hear the word unstoppable, and why?
My son Joshua, because he's a little kid. And the thing about little kids is that they see no barriers between themselves. Like if you ask a room of preschoolers, who's the fastest kid in the room, every one of them raises their hand.
That's awesome.
Like it's awesome. They're like, I am. Like they're like, who's the smart? I am. Who does the best drawings? I am. And so
what happens along the way that we lose that? That's the beautiful place. Like that's where we want to get to.
Yeah.
Right?
I think the ego starts comparing ourselves. We start getting rewarded and punished
you fail at a couple things.
Fail, and then failure becomes, and that's the thing. I think that, you spoke of failure. I mean, I had a friend who ended a 19-year marriage and he thought it was a failure. And I'm like, Doug, what do you think success means?
Yeah.
Like life is not a series of successes and failures. The real meaning of the word success is succession.
Yeah.
Is what follows from this. The king is dead, long live the king. You were in a relationship, it took you to a certain place on the earth, what's next? If you move through your life adding up wins and losses, you lose.
Listen, I am successful now because I've had so many failures.
Yeah.
I've failed at everything. Right? I mean, I've done it all. I've had hundreds of jobs. I've failed at everything. And because I've had those failures, I've been able to shape my life into the life that I've dreamed of.
Yeah. All right, well, I have to ask you the question now.
Okay.
Who is the first person that comes to mind when you hear the word unstoppable?
Your son, Joshua. Ask me another one.
Describe a time when you felt unstoppable.
Oh, man. I think it would probably be what you would describe as the flow state. I was teaching a class, and I was just saying these things that were coming through me, and I didn't even know where they were coming from.
Yeah.
And I felt like this is what it's all been for.
Yeah.
Like all this shit that's happened to me in my life, all the problems, all the trauma, all the terrible things that have come to me and happened to me through my life. Like I'm finally in my purpose and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's it. I mean, that's the moment. I'm getting all choked up, but yeah. I mean, it's like teaching in the moment. When I'm in the moment and I'm feeling it, that's when I feel unstoppable. That's when I feel like I'm the best version of me.
Yeah, and it's just, I think that's beautiful because I think you said it's coming through you.
Yeah.
We have this idea that like we need to make this happen and we need to, and I think that there's 3 stages, right? There's people who think they're victims, like the world is happening to them. Then there's people who have a little bit more agency, a little bit more understanding. They're like, they can make stuff happen. But you can get stuck there too.
Yep.
A lot of people are stuck in victimhood. A lot of people are stuck in I'm the shit.
Yeah.
Right? Because the next step beyond that is through me.
Yeah. I've been stuck in both of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was stuck in victimhood for many years.
Yeah.
I was stabbed and left for dead and all these terrible things that happened to me. And like, look what happened to me. And if you had my life, you would. And, you know, once you take responsibility and ownership of your life, because the things that happened to me, you know, they may have other people's names on it, but my solution has my name on it.
Yeah.
I'm responsible now.
Yeah.
Right? So once I took responsibility for my life, that's when everything changed.
Excellent. All right. You asked me the next question.
Okay, good. If you could send everyone at the conference, or maybe the world, a text message, what would you say?
Put down your phone.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, look, we use our phones. They're fantastic. I have one. But we use our phones. The way most people use their phones is to dissipate these moments of anxiety.
Yeah.
They get a moment, phone.
Yeah.
Phone, right?
It's
And
crazy
so,
now that I see groups of people just sitting there all on their phone.
Yeah.
Like, we're not connecting anymore.
Yeah.
Like, what are we going to do at the end of our life? Be like, you know, oh my God, look at this picture of me on my phone. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like, look at this selfie. You know,
Yeah.
it used to be like someone had a picture on the wall, and they'd be like, "This is, you know,
Where I
my,
went,
my
yeah.
grandfather with Charles Lindbergh on the first Atlantic flight across
Yeah.
the." You know, now it's like, "This is my salad.
This is me and my boba.
This is the wing of a plane.
my boba tea, yeah.
This is me in a bathroom mirror."
Well, I think that's I mean, related to that joke answer I gave is that what I would text is you're enough.
Yeah.
Like your experience
That
moment
was
to
going to
moment
be
is
my
enough.
thing. You stole my shit. That was totally my answer to that
All right,
question.
well, I'm going to ask you the next question.
Oh, man.
Oh, no, this is a dull question. Who wrote this one?
Well, she's probably in the room, and you probably just hurt their feelings. So. good
Oh,
job.
and not only is she in the room, her mom and her aunt are in the room. Why don't let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Let's hug it out.
All right. Good job. Great job. Oh, good work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was awesome.
All right.
Cool.
Cool.
Thank you, guys.